We would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather today, the Bidjigal and Gadigal peoples of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend our respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Welcome to On Air Snack Bar, the podcast where we take you inside the world of entertainment with interviews from your favourite stars, creators, and industry icons in Australia. I'm Jason Arrow, your host for all things theatre and MT, and this is On Air Snack Bar. Hi there, welcome to On Air Snack Bar. I am Jason Arrow on this very rainy and lightning-filled, thunder-filled day in Sydney. So excuse that if you can hear it in the background. I am interviewing two amazing humans today. One is a good friend of mine whom I met during my time in Hamilton, absolute mainstay in the industry. And the other is an industry icon whom I'm very excited to learn more about today. They have both been a part of the industry for quite some time and are now joining together on stage in Annie, which plays at the Capitol Theatre in Sydney from March 25th. Tickets can be bought through Ticketmaster or on 136-100. Please welcome Miss Hannigan and Rooster Hannigan, Deb, krizak, and Keanu Gonzalez. Welcome.
I had to stop myself from laughing. I don't know why. I'm just in a good mood. Feeling good here.
But also, have you ever seen me do this before?
No, that's probably why. I had to stop myself. You started talking. I was like, what the fuck? What's happening?
I was smiling from ear to ear.
Look, I knew it. As I was saying it, I'm like, I know
Yeah, you were smiling a little bit. You knew I knew.
I knew it was in there. So, Annie, right. Have you started rehearsals yet?
No.
No?
1 week.
Come up. Yep.
This time next week.
This time next week.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it?
Yes, all kinds of nervous, excited, can't wait. It's been a long time coming. But yeah, can't wait. It's going to be incredible with 30 kids.
Incredible cast as well.
18 adults.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people in one room.
Who do we have in the cast? We have, obviously, both of you. Deb, you're playing Agatha Hannigan, if you didn't know the full name. Keanu, Daniel Rooster Hannigan. Anthony Waller's Daddy Warbucks. Mackenzie Dunn, Lily St. Regis. And Greg Page, which is OG Yellow Wiggle, as President Franklin D. Roosevelt. That's amazing.
That has me so excited.
Literally.
I was going to message him on Instagram when I found out he got it to be like, just so you're aware, I'm sorry in advance for fanboying out so hard on you when I meet you. Because I am obsessed. I'm obsessed with him.
I would be too.
Were you brought up with Greg Wiggle?
I was. I had my Dorothy the dinosaur hat as a kid.
Big fan.
Whereas my kids were brought up with the...
Oh, okay.
Anyway, we'll move on.
So have you met any of those cast members before? I know you've worked with Mackenzie before, Keanu. Have you met any of them, Anthony? Or
No, we just met for the first time a couple of months ago at our publicity shoot. We were all flown to Melbourne and we had our publicity shoot together. So we all walked in one by one.
It's always the most awkward thing,
It's
isn't
so
it?
excruciatingly tough and
Like,
you just
I
want to
don't
be
know who
cool
you
and nice. And we got to meet everybody then, which was lovely. And the day was beautiful. We actually went to the airport with Keanu and Mackenzie afterwards and we had a sneaky little bevy and got to know each other and flew home and here we are today, and then next Monday it's all systems go.
Yeah, and because whenever you get into rehearsals, it is that, right? You just hit the ground running, and all of a sudden you're all in separate rooms, and you're doing the song, and then they're over there doing scenes. How do you prepare for rehearsals? Like, what's? Let's start with you, Keanu. How do you prepare for a rehearsal?
I guess it depends. It depends what I'm doing. You know, for this specifically, this Rooster, this character, he is a character. So it's a lot of script analysis and, I'm an old Stanislavski buff and and, all sorts of that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, I'll deep dive through the script, do the given circumstances, find the character. I also like to kind of, when it gets to a point where I feel like I understand this character a little better, I'll just be in my room alone and just start walking around and cleaning things and looking for things like as the character. Yeah. And then when I feel like I'm in it, I'll grab the script and kind of flick through and find some choices and discovery through that. Yeah.
What about you, Deb?
I think in this particular case, the role is so iconic and it's been played by so many iconic females that there's a lot riding on my shoulders to create my own version of this character, but also honour the physical comedy, honour all of that Carol Burnett, we've had Jill Perryman originally in Australia. Yes. So I start by reading script, obviously, reading my scenes, breaking it down, trying to find the truth in the character. Yeah. More than anything, and learning the lines. Like I just have to learn the lines like parrot fashion so that it's in my muscle memory so I don't have to think about remembering lines. Yep. And then I can just work with the physicality of the character. For me, it's a process, and that's why I find auditions particularly excruciating because I can't bring what I really do well into an audition room. I need time on the floor. I need time with the other actors. I need to feel the vibe between us all to be able to create what I call my magic. for that character. So I've been doing a lot of that, and also working on, you need to find the physicality, and you need to find the voice.
Yes.
So it's finding the walk. How does she walk? Now, everybody knows Miss Hannigan as being predominantly drunk to be able to cope with these children, but you can't play her drunk, because the minute you play her drunk, it becomes a caricature.
Yes.
So trying to play somebody who's drunk a lot and is hungover, but wants to remain incredibly sober.
Well, I mean, at that point,
through the whole
she'd
thing.
probably be high functioning, right? High functioning alcoholic at that point.
Which is basically me. I'm kidding. But I've got
the
two kids. That's just with 2 kids, not 30. But it's a process, and that's the exciting and scary part of it, is that you want to create your own version of it, but you have to be vulnerable on the floor.
Yeah.
And have trust in the people around you, and they have to trust you as well. So I think we've got a good dynamic with this show. We've got some great talent, but I'm looking forward to getting started and seeing what evolves.
Yeah. No, of course. So we were talking about this before, actually, off camera, and I was like, we need to stop because we're getting into some good stuff here. But we're talking about digital and physical scripts. Now, Keanu, you love a digital script.
Only recently. I've been a physical script guy my whole life up until I bought an iPad. And I had to justify the purchase somehow. So
For tax.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. And Deb, love a physical script.
I'm so old school, and I know it's not good for the environment, but I do love a physical script that I can make notes on, and then I like to print my scenes separately, stable them together so I can pull them out. So when I'm on the floor, I need to write any direction down, or I need to write entrance and exits down. I've got my own little part of the script that I can write, rather than cutting a whole script where I'm not in.
But also you're not worrying about charging it, and I'm gonna have a keen eye on my battery power here, just in case.
Yeah, right.
But then you're not worrying about charging it. I'm also a physical script person.
I like to keep them too.
I've tried both.
Yeah.
But yeah, I completely understand why.
You can tell generationally who's who in a room, because the younger ones generally have their iPads, and I'm desperate to learn how it's done. So maybe Keanu, that can be day one.
There we go.
I'll teach her. We'll do a good notes workshop. And I'll take it.
So, of course, knowing you're about to start this new journey with Annie, you, of course, come from very different places on your journeys in the industry. Deborah, you've been around the traps for some time now, spanning 2 decades, playing some iconic leading roles, such shows as The Producers, A Chorus Line, Sweet Charity, Cabaret, We Will Rock You. The list goes on. Keanu, you've been an industry staple in the ensemble, covering roles, incredibly talented dancer, ensemble member, and acrobat. Does a great 540, might do one for lead.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, get it in, please get it into
No.
That'll be your Rooster entry.
One of the first things that Jason said to me when I booked Greece was like, so where are you going to put the 540 in?
And lo and behold, put it in. So
I always put it in. That front flip, the front flip that I put in the show literally only happened because Jason was like, do a flip. And I was all right.
And when he did it, I was like, yes!
Wow.
It was fantastic. And of course, now you've segued into leading roles. You played Bernardo in West Side Story, Greg in A Chorus Line, and most recently, Kinnicky and Grace. Starting with you, Deborah. Deb. I keep saying Deborah.
That's all right.
How do you go about tackling a new role? So we talked about how you would prepare for the audition, but let's say you're getting into the theater now. Obviously, the rehearsal room is very different, and it's a different environment. There's no lights, there's no sound, there's no abyss of darkness ahead of you that is the audience. How do you tackle the difference between a rehearsal room version of the show and the stage version of the show?
Look, I love a rehearsal room because you get to see the nuances, and it's an intimate environment, just like performing at the Hayes when it's a small stage. When you're on a bigger stage, obviously, you need to elevate that performance so that it reaches the back row.
Yes.
But for me, it's mainly the part I love about transferring from rehearsal room to the stage is you get the sets.
Yes.
The costumes, the lights, and even all of those things then influence the character even more. When you're dimly lit, when you're brightly lit, you don't want to waste too much energy if you're not lit. Do you know what I mean?
In soft focus,
Here's my spotlight. But, it's all about, and I need props and sets to sort of, and I was just talking to Keanu before, just saying, I love stairs because there's so many options for physical comedy on stairs and things that you can play with. And there's a lot of that in my scenes.
Do you love using props? I know some actors hate props.
I used to be very scared of them.
Right.
And, especially when it's timed props, like da-da-da-da-da and boom, slap, jaw. And it's almost musical and rhythmical.
Yes.
Like I stepped in for Tina in Cinderella, and it was a lot to learn. It wasn't just lines, but it was a lot of door slamming and entries and this, that, and, you know, it becomes its own rhythm aside from your lines and your songs. So, getting onto a big stage for me is learning your backstage plot.
Yep.
Learning when your quick changes are happening. I don't think I've got too many. It's a dressing gown or something or other.
Yeah.
It's quite easy for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, your access points, obviously, and safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Keanu? That transition between rehearsal and stage.
Well, I really like discovering things in the room. You know, I feel like even with Grease as Kaneki, even though it was a year run, I was still making and finding new choices towards the end of the run.
Of course, yeah.
You know, it keeps it interesting, keeps it fun for us. And if we're having fun, then the audience are like, oh, this is great. They're having fun, making new choices. It's more realistic. Whereas, you know, even though, I'm not a big fan of hit your mark and say your line the same way every time, because it loses its humanity that way. Yeah. So I really enjoy that. And I also really enjoy a prop. I love a prop.
Prop.
Well, the first time I went on for you as Hamilton, and it was the there would have been nothing left of you behind the table. I was like, oh my God, you're just like papers handing and books and stuff. I freaked out, but I love it. It gives you something to do, and you know.
Yeah, once you've got everything else solidly in your head, and you add a prop in, you know, it's like another level of choreography. Really.
I always love to, like with props, kind of Mrs. Lovett it a little bit. And like, you know, when she does, wait, what's your rush, what's your hurry? And she does all the choreography with the rolling pin. And I always love to like make that a part of the show. So for example, you were talking about at the start, it was all time to music.
I know.
Which
and people don't realize that.
They really
don't realize the intricacies of that.
Yeah.
And
so intricate, that in a whole number.
Do you find that you both do that? Because I mean, obviously that specific moment wasn't directed. I just did that because I felt comfortable to do that. I felt like fun, and I was like, no one knows what I'm doing. Do you do that? Do you start to time physically what you're doing to the music, even though it's not meant to be?
It evolves, I think.
Yeah,
you know,
not
like,
intentionally.
You'll hear something in the score, and you go, okay, that's a great place to thump that down or whatever. So it's even like incidental dialogue, like in Easy Street. It's a long song, and we've got a lot of dialogue interspersed. It's all timed. You know, we're not just rolling off the tongue whenever we feel like it. And a lot of people probably wouldn't know that either. It's quite specific, but you have to make it look
like and
sound natural and rolled off the tongue. But it's timed. To bars.
Yeah. So you would you say you like to sprinkle that in?
I
Grease,
think.
Let's take Grease for example.
Yeah, I think, you know, things in terms of props and movements and physicality, musicality, I think a lot of those things, for me at least, they develop naturally. And I don't go, I mean, sometimes I'll be like, I'm gonna hit this on this beat or whatever, but a lot of the times things will just happen, and then it just becomes a rhythm, you know, and then you get into that rhythm, and you're just like, oh, I've been doing this. You know, you don't really realize until you realize that you've been doing something for so long. Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I'm walking, bit of thunder. But like walking on beat or something like that. And you're like, oh, why am I doing this? Right? Is there anything about doing a show that becomes challenging or is challenging for you from the outset? Like say, for example, just for me, for example, like with Ham, the words started to become a bit of an enemy for me. You know, I would start forgetting things that I know I knew, but it would just, so is there anything in a show that sort of just becomes challenging for you the longer you do it?
It's the discipline.
Yep.
The 8 shows a week for a year run is always challenging for anybody, especially when you're in a title role, because it's your responsibility to be true to that piece. And there is so much, if you weren't a disciplined performer, to start integrating things of your own or adding a line in here and there, which we all know we don't do.
Yes.
But there's the temptation to drift off direction and drift off script. And that's where the discipline comes in, because you're not the writer.
Yes.
So you have to honour that work, and also honour the work of the creatives around you who have specifically instructed. Now, that's not to say that you don't have a discussion about how you think things could go, and you workshop that, and that happens in rehearsals. But I think for me, it's the discipline of that, and also keeping yourself mentally and physically fit enough to be able to perform at your best. Because as the old saying goes, every single audience are seeing the show for the first time. Yeah. And that's a great reminder to have in your head, because even though it might be your 8th show of the week, it's their first.
Exactly.
So they're expecting to see
something
all of
that
those
someone
things.
said was, I can't remember who it was that it might, it was Lynn, said it might be someone's first time seeing theatre at all, and it might be someone's last time seeing theatre.
And that keeps it real, doesn't it?
Keeps it real.
It really does, and it personalises the people that you're performing to, because quite often, there is a curtain, but with theatre, there is no interaction other than applause and laughter. That's the only feedback we get from our audiences.
And the occasional opening of a chip packet.
Oh, the opening of a chip packet.
Or the phone. And then they go, the light's on. No.
The odd Malteser.
We know this.
We know it. We see you. If you're in the back row and your phone's out, I see it.
But it is the only interaction we have. But there'll be plenty of that.
It'll be the death of us, won't it? The old chip packet. I still have to stop my family.
Oh, yes.
And my kids will be there.
I'm like,
I'll be like, can you not? I'll be like,
it's always like, you're like, there was the loudest scene that could have ever been in the existence of time. 2 minutes before this, you couldn't have done it then.
Exactly.
But we're going to do it when it's the most silent part in the show and someone's dying on stage.
But it's where we are. People are used to watching screens.
Yeah.
And generally they don't think we can hear it or see it when they have their phones up with the lights.
Oh my Lord, can we hear it?
Audiences do some funky things. Yeah. I remember in Greece when it's a really intense moment where I'm finding out that Rizzo is pregnant and I'm about to find out that it's mine. So it's a really intense silent moment. Yeah. And somebody in the audience just goes, just sing the songs.
Oh my Lord.
I was like, keep calm.
Deb, have anything crazy like that happened? Actually,
on stage?
Like with an audience member, just something like that.
Not an audience member, but a pigeon.
Oh.
A pigeon, yeah.
Inside?
Yeah.
Wow.
Was it trying to steal your role?
Oh my gosh, it was a chorus line and we were at Burwood Casino.
Yep.
And we were right in the middle of dun, 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 dun. Show me your pictures and your resumes. And I'm thrilled to hear that you did that show.
Loved it.
And at that moment, we were all standing on the line and I heard boom.
Oh my God.
And the audience start roaring with laughter. Very serious moment in the show. And I had Ash McKenzie next to me playing Bobby and he said, shall I get it? And I thought, oh my God, it's a bird. I'm the oldest one on this line. I thought, I'll have to get it. It would have been a stop show.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I said, hey, Zach, give me a moment. I was playing Sheila. Walked up to the pigeon in my little beige leotard, bent over very seductively. The pigeon went, but I'm a bird tamer, amateur bird tamer, so I knew how to pick it up. No one knew this at the time. So I scooped my hand under its belly and put my hand over its wings, got this beautiful little pigeon, and I walked off, stayed in character, handed it to stage management, wiped my hands and went, I'm ready, Zach. And back in line. The audience went crazy and wild. And people thought it was part of the show. It wasn't a part of the show. There was pigeons.
Yeah, there's a pigeon that has been choreographed.
Like, come on now.
So that is the moment where I will always remember. And it's that story
awesome.
Has filtered down to younger people coming up into musical theatre. And I'd love to say they know me for my work, but they'll say, oh my God, you're Deb Krizak. And I'll go, oh yes. Okay, you're the one that rescued the pigeon. And I'll be like, that's me.
Thanks so much. I've done so many more things than just that pigeon.
But that's actually my highlight of my career. I've got to say.
It's always those weird moments that become the things, right?
Yeah, the things like that go wrong, that's what you remember.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps us all sane.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Oh,
but
for sure.
Except for people calling out right in your vulnerable moment.
Sing the song.
I mean, that was wild. There's so many. Like when I was doing Cats, the set that was supposed to be walkable all over it snapped underneath me and a nail was sticking out. Yeah. A nail was sticking out and it cut my leotard right at my groin.
Ooh.
And it was a very scary moment. But the leotard just went, whoosh.
There's a ticket price.
Yeah, the audience got what they paid for at that time.
But just like go in the silentest moment of the show as well, like top of act 2, everyone's just inside. It was wild.
Did everybody laugh?
Every show has something like that.
Did anyone see it? Yeah, did anyone laugh? Like, or was it just?
Well, yeah, all the cats on stage being like, trying not to laugh.
Did anyone react in character like?
Probably.
I wish they
that would have been a Helpman.
I was kind of occupied trying to figure out if my balls were chopped off. But,
yeah, of course.
You know.
Other than those moments, obviously there are careers that we could have done that are much more consistent than being on stage. So what do you love about performing that keeps you coming back to it?
Oh, I'm still trying to answer this question myself.
Yeah.
I would honestly say for me, it's always been the ability to make people laugh.
Yeah.
Which is why musical comedy has always been top of my list. I love a good drama and dramatic show as well, but I think that feeling of nailing that and making people laugh and escape out of their worlds is something that keeps me coming back. But having said that, I've left so many times.
Yep.
I've quit more times than I can
this is the
count.
last one. And then
and, I'm never in control of that. Mm-hmm. None of us are in control of our careers or where things are going. And Annie is a testament to that for me as well. Mm-hmm. It was a series of things that led to this.
Yeah.
And, I'm just open day at a time, one day at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. What about you, Keanu?
Well, for me, as Keanu, I'm a guy who kind of loves adventure and exciting things. Like I train Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I go fishing, I ride a motorbike. I just love adventurous, exciting things. And for me, I get that from performing in theater because I get to play all these different characters that go on all these different adventures. And that's pretty much the short and sweet of it.
Yeah.
And that keeps me really interested, and that's why I love it.
Yeah. No, that is really interesting. Yeah. So it's
adrenaline.
It's kind of an adrenaline sort of fix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get to experience, someone else's life. We're acting, but it's still a journey that's separate to my own that I get to go down every night.
I guess there's ways of sort of discovering parts of yourself that you might not necessarily have known before.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Jason, I was just going to say, there's in every character you play, no matter how dark, whatever it is, there has to be a bit of yourself in it. I mean, you're physically bringing yourself, and you speak the way you speak, whatever, but there has to be a little bit of yourself in every character for it to really connect. And that's the discovery, isn't it?
I agree, 100%.
Mm-hmm. And of course, segueing into the next series of questions, to get into theatre, we obviously have to audition and things like that. How do you find them? Do you love, hate, indifferent?
Can't stand
I hate them.
Okay, great. That's a very, very pointed response.
And they don't get any easier.
No, they don't.
It's a different skill.
Worse as you get older.
Right.
You become much more aware of how great everybody is.
Oh, yes.
And I love it when I'm in an audition room and I hear the person go in before me. If they're terrible, I think, thank God. Thank God. Yes, thank you. And next. But no one's terrible these days. Everybody is brilliant.
Yeah.
And so, especially by the time you get through the first or the second round, fortunately, I don't have to do too much of that anymore.
Yes.
I don't have to turn up to the ensemble dance calls, which would
the worst part of it.
Worst part.
Well, you were fine.
I'm sure that's fine for me.
You love the dancing.
I'm not kicking past 90 these days, so that's
kicking
it.
past 45 maybe.
Smart kickball change.
Point. That's about it.
But they're horrifying. They're awful, and I just don't do well in them, and I never have. And I trust that the people behind that panel have seen my work enough to be able to work with me, because I can perform for 6,000. You put me in front of 6 people and I find it quite excruciating.
I feel like the requirements are getting a bit crazy as well, and that doesn't help.
It's a memory test.
And know half the show by the time you get in there.
I don't do that anymore.
Great.
I take my script with me, and then if we're at the second or the third callback, then a lot more will be committed to memory, but otherwise it will be a memory test for me. And the memory test takes away from being able to absorb the notes or what I'm feeling in the room, or being able to really show them what I can do. So I don't think the expectation is that we all need to have everything off book, especially when you get it 2 days beforehand. I've let myself go with a little bit of that now, but that's not to say that the people I might be competing against all are off book.
Yeah.
So they have an advantage. So that's always tough for a lot of people to grapple with, especially when you become a mother or you have a family and you don't have this surplus hours to sit at home and learn all of this stuff. You're running kids around, you're doing this and that. So it's a real point of contention for a lot of us, is the amount of material that we're expected to learn and present. But at the end of the day, if you are right for a role and you don't know it like the back of your hand and you're holding your script,
you're going to get it.
Well, you're not necessarily going to get it, but they know what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. What about you, Keanu? Are you?
Well, I was just thinking that I don't know if people realize this who aren't necessarily in the industry, but for me, I feel like doing an audition and doing a show are 2 completely separate skills.
I agree.
They are.
Like, they're such separate skills, and I don't know what about it is. I think, when you book a show, you have all this time to prepare and understand the character. And like I was saying earlier, I love deep diving into who this person is I get to portray. But with auditions, you have a week, 2 weeks to learn all of this material. So I think it's I'm my own worst enemy. I think a lot of us are. So I, in my head, kind of sabotage myself by thinking, maybe I don't have enough time to prepare. I don't have enough time to give my best version of this. And I think that can kind of get in my way, but
I think
it's a
we're
work in progress.
In our heads, aren't we?
Yeah.
And also in Australia, whereas in America, there's shows everywhere.
Every 5 seconds. Yeah.
So you can audition once a week, twice a week sometimes. Yeah. So you have the repetition.
We have seasons of auditions. Like you do like maybe 3 in like 4 weeks, and then that's it.
That's it.
Yeah. So they have the opportunity to continuously audition and improve that skill. But in Australia, there's not that many auditions. So it's so hard to improve a skill that you don't practice as much. And auditioning isn't as frequent in this country.
Do you feel like it's also something like permission to fail? Do you feel like in like a rehearsal setting, you're allowed to not know something, or you're allowed to mess up a line because you've already got the role at that point? The pressure's off.
Yeah, and you can come back again tomorrow and do it again. Whereas audition, it's like you've been practicing, or the other thing is you have a week or two to prepare for the material, but you've known this show is coming for at least like 6 months. The grapevine is grapevining. Yes. So, we know there's a show coming.
Yep.
And we're so high. So we hype ourselves up for months because there is such little work in this country to get there and spend 5 minutes in a room knowing you only have one shot. Yeah. 5, 10, 15 minutes in a room,
Only get one shot.
Yep. I don't know what that's from.
I find I'm better the less pressure or expectation I put on myself.
Yeah.
The auditions that I've spent weeks drumming and learning, Pippin is a classic example, are usually the ones that don't eventuate. It's the ones where I go, I'm not sure if I'll even turn up. If I'm like a chorus line, I almost didn't turn up.
Yep.
I was driving back from the Hunter Valley and I went, look, it'd just be nice to be in the room and hear that music.
Yes.
And that was career defining for me. So, you just, the more impact and the more you put on yourself, like Keanu said, and I want to get that show, sometimes it can have an adverse effect. And
of course,
well, if you care a lot,
the expectation, I think, is what you got to let go of, isn't it?
Do you feel like the expectation, the longer you're in the industry and the more work you get, the more known you are, you feel like that pressure is lessened as time goes on?
I think the pressure gets worse.
Right.
Yeah.
Opposite.
Yeah. Excited.
For me,
I'm like, but I'm already
because I know what I can do.
Yes.
And so when I'm in there and the voice doesn't do exactly what I want it to do because I'm nervous or something, and you think you'd go in there and not care. You care more.
Right.
And so hence I've never been able to the audition skill for me is just, I've never been able to master it. I still find it incredibly hard.
Right. And you seem like that might play into why you've stepped away at times.
Well, you step away because there's no choice. If you don't get the job, and I don't think any of us can just work consistently in musical theatre. You have to be able to do a range of jobs in between or sometimes at the same time to be able to survive and also just to take the pressure off yourself. Mm-hmm. And I say to kids that I'm mentoring, I'm like, always find ways, get to know your lighting and sound, get to know your crew, your tech, your choreographers and what they do, because it's such a big part. And you could be the assistant director one day and there's so many avenues that you can go into. So you take the pressure off yourself of having to be front center all the time. And I certainly didn't think at this age I would still be working, but I'm fortunate enough to, that I am. So
yeah. How did you get into acting? Where did it all start? For whoever wants to go first.
Well, for me, I was originally going to be a dancer. I trained at Brent Street, and I didn't really have a passion for singing or acting. Yeah. And my agent at the time was like, you should try audition for a musical. And at that point, I was kind of going down the commercial dance career path. Yeah. So I was like, okay, they want me to do it. They're my agent. I'll just listen and do it. And then I ended up booking my first show, which was Strictly Ballroom. Mm-hmm. And I got to work with Baz Luhrmann, and I covered Scott Hastings, the lead role, and I was 16 years old. Wow. So it was all very overwhelming for me. Yeah. But I'll never forget that I had a one-on-one session with Baz to work on Scott. So we did the scenes, we did the songs, we did the dancing, and then that kind of really inspired me, working with such a renowned director. Like the way he works is just so unique. I've never experienced anything like it. And then right before opening night, I broke my foot. So I couldn't do my first opening night of a show. So I was sitting at home, and Baz, his assistant, delivered me to my door a Stanislavski, an Act Prepares book. And it had a beautiful message inside it. And it was the first acting book I'd ever had. And I read that thing
cover to cover
so much. Yeah. And I still read it. I still have it. It's all highlighted and messed up. But that moment, that thing, that's exactly what got me into acting.
And that sparked it for you.
Fallen in love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You, Deb?
Oh, that's a great story. Not quite that exciting.
I just wanted to do it.
I don't really know. I always wanted to be a dancer. So I spent all of my younger years in Adelaide training in dance. I did my degree in dance. And then, my mum put me in dance at 3. So the school would have little amateur musicals they'd put on and they'd chuck us around a piano to see who could sing. And one of my first shows turned out to be Annie. Yep. And I got the role of Hannigan. So, so that was at 13. I was doing that. Yeah. So that was kind of my introduction into it. And then from there I decided, I found out I had a voice. So I spent years singing in bands and then wanted to move to Sydney to do musical theatre, and the rest is history.
Yeah. So Adelaide, I know my partner's from Adelaide. So I know that the scene there is quite, sort of pro-am and amateur, shows going on, which is the same for Perth, which is where I was brought up as well. Did that play into your sort of, I guess, early development in training, I guess?
I didn't do a lot of the pro-am or the amateur scene in Adelaide, but I did get selected to do through the schools program. They went around the schools and picked what they call the talented kids from all the schools, and they put SA Youth Theatre, it was called. Right. And then they put a touring community of kids that went out and toured. So I did that through my school years, which was my first introduction to, doing something sort of semi-professional, I guess. And that's where I did most of my work. But I was busy in the band scene.
Oh, gig.
So I was gigging from a very young age, and from 14 I was gigging on the weekends. So theatre would have gotten in the way, amateur theatre would have gotten in the way of that. I was earning a good income. So that's what I spent all my 20s doing.
So Perth and Adelaide are so interchangeable. That's literally
really?
Literally the words out of my mouth. I used to gig all the time in Perth.
And it's great because it held, chords of steel.
Yeah, because you sing them for 3 hours straight. You have no choice.
No fallback.
Just you.
Guitar's too loud.
Yeah.
You learn how to use your voice and look after your voice, and also become very flexible with your voice as well, and versatility.
Sort of fast tracks the learning of the instrument, I guess, as in your voice.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you desperately want to do within the industry? It can be anything.
I mean, there's lots of roles that I would love to play. Whether it's I'm probably not right. It's the age wise, or but like there are dreams. Like I'd love to play Sweeney Todd. Yeah, I'd love to play Enjolras in Les Mis. I'm a very kind of go with the flow kind of guy. Yeah. So I'm grateful for every show that I get. I'm like, great, because I know so many people aren't literally able to do what we do and would love to. So
I have reached my dream role. This is it.
Great.
So I would love to do Gypsy, and there's a Follies maybe in a few years, but there's a few other bucket list shows I'd love to do. But I'm really interested in casting. So I would love to get into children's casting for musicals.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Krizak casting.
Yeah. We've already talked about Gonzalez and Krizak.
Oh, that's a great. That's
all the
great,
Zs.
That's a very strong name, actually.
It is. The Zs are strong, aren't they?
Yeah. That's like, who else are you going to go to casting for? That's your option. That's it.
We'll chat during rehearsals.
Wait, I didn't say casting. Am I now casting? Am I your assistant casting
I'm just bringing things to the table, Rooster.
I'll take the offer.
Just doing acting. You can also have a casting business on the
Great,
side.
and I'll cast myself.
Well, that is one of the benefits.
And you'll put on Gypsy and Sweeney Todd, and that'll be the end of it.
Good.
Let's talk. Okay, so first shows was obviously for you was Strictly Ballroom.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first gig?
My first professional gig was The Producers.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Who was that with? Was
that Gordon Frost or John Frost?
Yep.
Yeah, GFO. Back then. Yeah. So I was a little Adelaide girl that had just moved to Sydney, quite late to musical theatre. I was 29 at the time.
Right.
And do the math now. And came over and I just randomly auditioned, didn't have an agent, and lucky they were looking for blonde leggy showgirls. And so I got the ensemble. I played the pretzel and the first cover to Ulla. So that was my introduction into pro musical theatre.
Wow. How do you handle the stress of leading a company? Like, it can be quite stressful being in a leading role.
Yeah. I think you do your work, the years I haven't just been thrust into this.
Yes.
It's been many years. So you've done your work where you've seen people lead by great example and lead by terrible example.
True.
And you need to know that you don't want to be that person. And believe me, I've been there.
Right. So you've learned,
with some older actors as well. Yeah. So you learn. You have to be generous, and you're always being watched. So it's your job to provide that experience for those who are looking up to you, no matter what, or are watching you. And in this case with Annie, we've got all the young kids, so it's more important than ever to be generous and mindful. Yeah, and hopefully they take away a great experience and can come to you when they're leading a show and say, "I'll be the nana at stage door. You were my Annie." And hopefully that they have good memories to report back. Yeah.
Well, that'll be like you, Keanu. I mean, you were in the industry when you were literally a fetus as well. So you would understand these kids coming in. Obviously, they're a lot younger, but you'd understand the perspective of being a child.
Yeah, I mean, I had that exact same thing when I was doing Strictly Ballroom. Like I had people who I looked up to, like for example, Rowan Brown. I don't know if you know Rowan.
Oh yeah,
surely. He's just he was like a big brother to me and such a role model, and I really looked up to him. He was just such an incredible guy, always there for me if I need. I learned so much. So I'm very grateful for him because he's kind of shaped me into the performer and person that I want to be, especially like in the industry. Yeah. And it was funny doing Grease. It was the first time I felt like, oh, there's a generation below me now that are kind of looking up to me. Yeah. So it is interesting how that,
But you do the work, it's very different, I suppose, if you're just thrown in and you've never into a celeb coming into a lead role that's never been in that environment before, because you are a family, as you know, and you're in an intimate space for a long period of time,
and it happens quick. Yeah, it happens quick. All of a sudden, you're like, oh wow, we're hanging out all the time.
Yeah.
Especially if you're touring, you don't really have a choice. You're in a city, you don't know anyone else.
We're sharing dorms.
Yeah, we have
on
Christmas
tour
together, and it's all that stuff. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So obviously we are more than just our jobs, and we are fully rounded human beings. So what are our hobbies? What do we like to do when we're not doing this?
Hobbies. Oh,
bird handling.
Yeah, give us a whistle.
Yes.
That sounds legit.
Amazing.
Can I give you a bird and can you make the sound?
No, I'm not that good.
Do a rooster.
Don't ruin it.
Do a rooster. I need help.
Wow. That's a bit magpie.
I think the best one I have is like a crow, like ow, ow, like that.
Oh, the seagull.
This is
I feel like I'm at the beach.
Because we were setting up, and Deb did that little whistle that you just heard before.
Everybody knows I do that.
And
I'm so
Keanu
boring.
and I looked at each other. We thought that there was a
bird in here. I was like,
great, we've got rain to compete with and this bird.
I do it on planes. I just do. I go, shh. And the air hostess, look, she got a bird under there. I go, it's okay, it's just a budgie. Shush,
so you're literally budgie smuggling.
Yeah.
I love that. That's hilarious. That's fantastic.
Wow. I don't know. Hobbies are, I'm too busy, but probably. I love animals. Yeah. Yeah. So you got anything more exciting, Keanu?
I love hobbies. I have a lot of hobbies. Yep. My biggest ones at the moment are probably Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I train 6 hours a week in Chippendale. Yep. And it's great. It's great.
You're going to have to show me some of this.
He will do 5:40 in rehearsals.
I have to teach me. I want to know. I'm interested in that, actually.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm addicted to it. There's something about it. It's like chess. Because the whole thing.
Which you also play.
Which I also play. Yeah. But the thing with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is there's no punching and kicking allowed. So it's a grappling sport. Right. So the goal is to make the other person submit to you by choking them or going for like a limb attack. Yeah. It's full on. It's full on.
Yeah. Are we talking hobbies?
Yeah. It's a whole other line of work.
Yeah, honestly. But it's great. And it's like chess because they make a move and you have to counter by doing it. You're playing off what the other person does. But other than that, fishing. I love fishing. Yeah. We go fishing all the time.
I love fishing.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Fishing.
We'll go fishing.
We'll go fishing.
Done.
Come on.
We'll go fishing.
Any other big plans ahead other than Annie? Like anything big life things coming up?
I haven't thought past the next year. I'm still getting my head around the year.
That's what happens. That's what happens. This job is so all-consuming that you forget.
Well, you also don't know what's going to happen. Exactly. And I think COVID's taught us all that. Yes. Just don't think too far forward. Yeah. To make plans, like every day, you just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
With anything.
Any big plans?
No, nothing. I mean, we're pretty wrapped up in Annie for the next year. So, but the only thing I'm thinking is I do 4 scenes in the whole show. So I have a lot of time backstage. So
heaven.
That's a great time to introduce another hobby.
I'm now doing programming.
But I might I'm still thinking about Fade to Black.
Oh my goodness. Oh, this is a I think we were on a holiday retreat. Like we just went.
It's an Airbnb.
And we came up with this random show. Out of nowhere, like we could do it in a theater, and it'd be like this guy stranded in space, and like it's just all black around him, and he's like stranded in space in his suit, and you see like I forget what happened after that.
But you've told everybody now, so you're not gonna have to copyright it.
Well, it is because it's been recorded, so if I see it, that's the end of it.
You're in trouble.
Yeah.
He gets lost in space and he gets detached from his space shuttle, and then he has a limited amount of oxygen, but he can stay in contact with his wife and kids. It's a full thing.
And he can still sing because it's a musical, right?
I'm up here and I'm still singing. We have all the oxygen in the world to waste at that point.
But all that to say, in my time off, I might be writing Fade to Black.
Yeah, absolutely.
And missing his cues.
Yeah.
I shan't be doing that.
Rooster.
Okay, so heading into this is my like final segment sort of thing because I think we're running out of time. We might have actually gone over, so thank you so much. It's called This or That. It's 10 questions, real quick, rapid fire. Just going to say the first thing that comes to your mind.
No.
Yeah,
this
that's
is really bad for my mind.
10, and I'll do. 2 people's different, so I'm probably going to have to. I'll just ask and answer together. Okay, that should be right.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So this or that.
This would be telling if we're a good brother and sister duo.
Actually, yeah. Because if it's completely opposite, you're probably a good brother and sister. Red or blue?
Red.
Great. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Morning or night?
Morning.
Night.
Movie or TV series?
Movie.
Sweet or savory?
Savory.
Winter or summer?
Summer.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Play or musical?
Play.
Melbourne or Sydney?
Sydney.
Idina Menzel or Cynthia Erivo?
Cynthia Erivo.
There we go. Wow. Okay. Wow.
We did. That was pretty much the same. So we're terrible. Based on what you were saying, terrible.
No, fantastic. That's all. That's really cool.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's it. 10 questions.
God.
Just 10 questions rapid fire. That was
Look
like
at that.
90% the same. That was crazy.
Wow.
So yeah, 9 questions were the same because there's only 10. So this one's a snack bar question. Being that we are recording on a snack bar, seems only right to ask, what is your during show snack that you like to have? Like say it's interval, we want a snack. What would we get?
Oh, I'm one of those really boring people that doesn't eat.
It can also be a drink.
I will have a coffee.
Great.
Or sometimes
Interval coffee, hey?
a Red Bull.
Nice.
Okay. We love
Really
the
bad
caffeine.
sugar-free Red Bull.
Yep.
If it's a 5-show weekend.
Yep.
But I generally, I can't,
Okay.
don't really eat. I'll be
What
spitting things.
about watching a show? So you're going to watch a show.
Oh,
You're in the audience.
in the audience.
Yeah.
Big noisy packet of chips.
Yes.
You're the thing that you hate.
just a blowhorn.
And a Malteser.
What about you, Kenny?
For me, it's hummus.
Yep.
Hummus. And depending on how healthy I'm trying to be.
Stick, right?
Well, yeah, it'll be carrot and celery.
Oh my God.
Carrot, celery, or corn chips.
I'm going to be throwing the twisties at you, mate. That's what I've decided.
I'll be going, whoa, get out.
You can dip them in your hummus.
540 dodging it the whole time. And this one is my chorus line question. You've both done the show, so you know what it's probably going to be roughly about. But if you could not do anything creatively, so let's say tomorrow it was universally outlawed, couldn't do it, what would you do?
Is it, wait, are you saying anything other than what? Non-creative?
Non-creative.
Well, everything's kind of like, if I was working at Subway, you got to make a sandwich. That's creative.
Yeah, that's true. But like, I mean,
I'm overanalyzing it. Sorry.
Like industry adjacent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something creative?
It's like non-creative.
Yeah.
So like, what was maybe the plan pre?
For me, it'd be Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to go down that route.
I'd continue my work in aged care and mental health. I work quite a few hours a week as a care support worker. So I work with people with schizophrenia, cerebral palsy, and dementia.
Wow.
It was a COVID pivot, and it's the best thing I've ever done.
And so you still keep, this is a whole other series of questions.
Yeah.
So and you're still doing that now?
I just finished last Friday.
Oh, okay. Because of course you're going into Annie. That would probably be pretty hard to keep up.
Absolutely opened my eyes to a whole world that I didn't realize I would love as much as I do.
Yeah. And is that like something that you hold close to you? Like, is that you would want to continue to do that?
Yes, definitely. I
Annie?
think aged care and our elderly are so dismissed.
Of course.
And they have so much to offer and share, and there's so much mental health goes on there. so it's a really big area, and I found my creative skills have been able to help with my clients. Just music and singing,
like translating and
transforms their day, and chronic fatigue, and they think they have all of these ailments, and they often do, but just being able to get them out, take them to choir or help them with some of those things, or even just a karaoke speaker, they forget about all of that and they suddenly come to life.
Because I don't want to, because this is quite important. I really don't want to leave that on such a like, that's really, really important to get into. Do you find that because you have this creative side of you, you've got the singing and the acting and that, do you find like that sometimes can help with patients with dementia, for example?
Dementia, definitely. Yeah. My client, she's just turned 100 and she has trouble hearing, seeing, and she's highly dementia. But I would, a lot of my time when she was awake, because they sleep a lot, would be in her ear singing songs so close up she could hear, and she might just respond with a tear might come down her face, beautiful, or something like that. And one of her favourite songs that she could remember was 21 today. I'd say, how old are you going to turn? It was her birthday. She was turning 100. How old are you turning today? And she'd think about it, and she'd say, 21. And so we'd sing 21 today all around the halls of the nursing home, and I felt so valued. I felt like I was doing valuable work, even though it's small work, like really, but I think that's the thing.
Work, though.
Overlooked work, but it's the one time I think even in this career, it's a career in acting and musical theatre where we need to be liked, we need the applause, we feed off of that, as well as, we put ourselves out there. There's some extent of it has to come back to self.
Yes.
But with that particular industry, it's taught me another side of that I could find as much joy from, which I never ever, and I don't think anyone around me could see coming. So I've been doing that for 3 years, and I will miss my clients, but it's also brought another layer to my humanity and who I am as a person as well.
That would also feed the creative side, the acting side of you as well.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful note to leave it on.
That's beautiful,
thank you so much for joining me on what was my second episode on S Snack Bar. Really appreciate it. You've both been amazing.
You did such a great job, Jason. Thank you for having us. Really lovely.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much. See you later. The curtain has fallen for today's episode, but subscribe on YouTube and follow the On Air Snack Bar channels on Spotify, Audible, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts to stay tuned for all the latest updates. We will be back next week with more exclusive interviews from the world of Australian theatre. But until then, keep on snacking.